If you search the internet for dangerous cities in Germany, you will find hundreds of articles and videos telling you that German cities are becoming war zones. Comment sections filled with people who have never visited Germany declaring it unsafe. News headlines cherry-picking the worst incidents to generate clicks. And social media posts painting entire cities as no-go zones where you take your life in your hands just walking to the supermarket. But here is what nobody does. Nobody actually looks at the data. Nobody compares German crime rates to other Western countries using real verified numbers. Nobody separates what people feel from what the statistics actually show. So, that is exactly what I am going to do in this video. I am going to take Germany's most frequently labeled dangerous cities, and I am going to compare the feelings with the facts. What I found genuinely surprised me, and I think it will surprise you too. Section 1. The global context. Before we look at any German city, we need to establish a baseline, because the word dangerous means nothing without context. Germany's national homicide rate is 0.8 per 100,000 people. Let me put that number in perspective. The United States homicide rate is 6.3 per Juman. That is nearly 8 times higher than Germany. The United Kingdom sits at 1.2 per Juman, France is at 1.3 per Juman, Australia is at 0.9 per 100,000. Canada is at 2.0 per 100,000. Brazil is at 22.4 per 100,000. South Africa is at 36.4 PA. Juman, Mexico is at 25.1 per 100,000. So before we even begin discussing Germany's most dangerous cities, understand this. Germany as a whole is one of the safest countries on the entire planet. Its worst city would be considered remarkably safe in most other countries. That is not an opinion. That is a mathematical fact verified by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Now with that baseline established, let us look at the cities that get labeled dangerous. Section 2. Frankfurt am Main. Frankfurt am Main. Population approximately 760,000. Germany's financial capital. Home to the European Central Bank. One of the world's most important banking centers. And statistically, Germany's highest crime city per capita. That last fact gets repeated endlessly in articles and comment sections. Frankfurt is dangerous. Frankfurt has the most crime. Aboido, Frankfurto. But let me show you what those statistics actually contain. Frankfurt's crime rate is heavily inflated by 3 factors that have nothing to do with your personal safety as a resident or tourist. Factor 1 is the airport. Frankfurt Airport is Germany's busiest, with over 60 million passengers per year. Every crime committed at the airport gets counted in Frankfurt statistics. Luggage theft, document fraud, customs violations, drug seizures. These are airport crimes that inflate the city's numbers enormously. Factor 2 is the financial district. White-collar financial crimes, fraud cases, money laundering investigations. These are counted as Frankfurt crimes even though they affect corporate balance sheets, not people walking down the street. Factor 3 is the transit population. Frankfurt's main train station handles over 450,000 passengers daily. The transient population moving through Frankfurt is massive. Crimes committed by and against people passing through are counted as Frankfurt crimes even though these people do not live there. When you remove airport crimes, financial crimes, and transit-related offenses, Frankfurt's actual street-level crime rate drops dramatically. A resident of Frankfurt's Norden Sachs or Bornheim neighborhoods experiences crime rates comparable to any mid-sized European city. I spoke with a woman who has lived in Sachsenhausen for 12 years. She told me she has never experienced a single crime. She walks home alone at night regularly. She said, reading about Frankfurt's crime statistics online is like reading about a completely different city than the one she actually lives in. The Bahnhofsviertel area around the main train station does have visible drug issues and higher petty crime. That is real, and I covered it in my previous video. But one neighborhood of roughly 6 streets does not define a city of 760,000 people. Section 3 Berlin. Berlin. Population, approximately 3.7 million. Germany's capital and largest city, Berlin gets called dangerous constantly, especially by people who have never been there. Let us look at what the data actually says. Berlin's overall crime rate per 100,000 residents is approximately 13,000 offenses. That sounds terrifying until you understand what counts as a criminal offense in German statistics. Fare evasion on public transport is a criminal offense. Riding the U-Bahn without a ticket is counted as a crime in Berlin's statistics. Berlin has approximately 300,000 fare evasion cases per year. That single category alone accounts for a massive chunk of Berlin's total crime numbers. When you remove fare evasion, minor drug possession, and bicycle theft, Berlin's violent crime rate is remarkably low for a capital city of nearly 4 million people. Berlin's homicide rate is approximately each denny. Perugium London's is 1.4. Paris is 1.8. Washington, D.C. is 23.5. Let me repeat that comparison. Berlin itenni, Washington, D.C. 23.5. Berlin is roughly 20 times safer than America's capital city for homicides. Now, Berlin does have genuine issues. Pickpocketing at tourist hotspots like Alexanderplatz is real. Bicycle theft is epidemic, with over 25,000 bikes stolen annually. And certain areas like Grillitzer Park have open drug dealing that makes people uncomfortable. But uncomfortable and dangerous are fundamentally different things. I talked to an American journalist who moved to Berlin from Chicago 6 years ago. She told me the concept of danger in Berlin would be laughable to anyone who has lived in a genuinely dangerous American city. She said in Chicago, she planned her routes to avoid certain neighborhoods entirely. In Berlin, she walks anywhere at any hour, and the thought of personal danger simply does not occur to her. Her biggest Berlin crime concern is someone stealing her bicycle. Not her safety. Her bicycle. That tells you everything about the actual danger level. Mid-video hook now, I have covered the 2 cities that dominate the dangerous Germany narrative. But there are more cities that get unfairly labeled, and some where the perception actually has some basis in reality. If this data-driven approach is refreshing compared to the fear-based content you usually see, drop a like right now. This kind of research takes significant effort, and your support keeps it going. Let us continue. Section 4, Bremen. Bremen. Population approximately 570,000. Bremen consistently appears in Germany's highest crime rate lists. And unlike Frankfurt, there is no airport effect to explain it away. Bremen does face genuine challenges. Its crime rate per capita is among the highest in Germany. Drug-related offenses are above the national average. Certain neighborhoods, particularly around the main station and parts of Greppellingen, have higher crime concentrations. But even Bremen's worst numbers need international context. Bremen's homicide rate is approximately 1.5 Peter Juman higher than the German average of 0.8. but still lower than London at 1.4. Still lower than Paris at 1.8. And astronomically lower than virtually any major American city. I spoke with a Turkish-German shop owner who has lived in Großpellingen for 22 years. He told me the media portrayal of his neighborhood makes his family back in Turkey worry constantly. But he said in 22 years he has been burglarized once and had his car scratched twice. He told me, compare that to what people experience in Istanbul or Bremen's problems are real, but they are German-scale problems. German-scale problems would be considered Tuesday in most other countries. Section 5. Cologne and Hamburg. Cologne and Hamburg deserve a joint section because the pattern is identical. Both are large cities with over 1 million residents. Both have higher than average crime statistics. Both get regularly labeled as increasingly dangerous. And in both cases, the same distortion applies. Large cities have more crime in absolute numbers because they have more people. When you calculate per capita rates and compare internationally, both cities are remarkably safe. Cologne's issues concentrate around the Hauptbahnhof area and the Ring nightlife district. After 2 a.m., Hamburg's issues concentrate around the Reeperbahn and certain parts of St. Georg. These are specific locations at specific times, not entire cities in permanent crises. I connected with a Japanese university researcher who has lived in Hamburg for 9 years. She told me before moving her parents were convinced Germany was dangerous because of what they read online. After visiting her in Hamburg, they were shocked by how safe it felt. Her mother told her this is safer than our neighborhood in Tokyo. Her mother was right. Hamburg's crime rate is lower than Tokyo's when you compare equivalent categories. Section 6. What is actually dangerous? Now, let me be honest about what does pose genuine risk in German cities, because dismissing all concerns would be dishonest. Pickpocketing at major tourist sites is a real and organized problem. Berlin, Alexanderplatz, Cologne Cathedral area, Munich, Marienplatz, and Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof are genuine hotspots. This is not violent crime, but it is financially damaging and emotionally upsetting. Bicycle theft is epidemic in every major German city. If you value your bike, invest in a serious lock and do not leave it unsecured. Certain train station areas across Germany concentrate drug activity and petty crime. This is a pattern in Frankfurt, Munich, Hamburg, and Berlin. Staying aware in station districts after dark is reasonable caution. Bar and club scams, particularly in Hamburg's Reeperbahn and parts of Berlin, target intoxicated tourists. Overpriced drinks, clip joints, and taxi scams happen to people who let their guard down at 3 a.m. Residential burglary rates in some border regions near the Netherlands and Poland are above national averages. This affects residents rather than tourists, but is worth noting. These are real issues. They deserve awareness and practical precautions. But none of them justify the label dangerous in any meaningful international comparison. Section 7y, the perception exists, so if Germany is this safe, why do so many people believe it is dangerous? The answer comes down to 3 psychological factors. Factor 1 is negativity bias in media. A single violent incident in Germany generates international headlines 4 days. Meanwhile, thousands of violent incidents in other countries receive 0 coverage. The rarity of serious crime in Germany is precisely what makes each incident newsworthy. Paradoxically, the safer a country is, the more shocking each crime feels. Factor 2 is political exploitation. Germany's immigration debate has led various political groups to amplify crime statistics. Both sides manipulate data to support their existing position. The result is a public discourse where crime feels much worse than data shows. Factor 3 is comparison to Germany's own past. Germans compare current crime rates to Germany in the 9th. By that comparison, some categories have increased. But comparing Germany to its own historically exceptional safety record is very different from comparing it to the rest of the world. Germany, comparing itself to its own past, is like a straight-A student panicking about getting an A-. The grade is still exceptional. It just does not feel that way from inside. Section 8. The numbers that matter. Let me close with the numbers that actually matter for anyone considering living in or visiting Germany. Your statistical chance of being a victim of violent crime in Germany is 0.06% per year. That means in any given year, 99.94% of people in Germany experience zero violent crime. Your chance of being murdered in Germany is roughly 1 in 125,000 per year. In the United States, it is 1 in 16,000. You are nearly 8 times more likely to be murdered in the United States than in Germany. Germany ranks as the 17th safest country in the world according to the Global Peace Index, ahead of the United Kingdom, at 34th ahead of France, at 65th ahead of the United States at 131st. The World Economic Forum ranks Germany among the top 20 safest countries for travelers. NABA's Safety Index ranks German cities consistently in the safe to very safe category. So here is the real truth about Germany's most dangerous cities. They are not dangerous. They are German. Which means they have German-scale problems that would be considered minor inconveniences in most other Western countries. No. Does Germany have crime? Yes. Every country on Earth has crime. Does Germany have areas that require awareness and basic precautions? Absolutely. I have covered specific locations and times in previous videos. But is Germany dangerous in any meaningful, comparative sense? No, not even close. The gap between how dangerous people feel Germany is and how dangerous it actually is may be the widest perception gap in European travel. And that gap exists because feelings are louder than facts. Headlines are louder than data. And fear is louder than math. But math does not care about feelings. And the math says Germany is one of the safest places on earth to live, work, raise children, retire, and travel. If you found this data-driven approach valuable, tell me in the comments which statistics surprised you the most. And if you have lived in Germany, I especially want to hear your experience. Does the reality match what the internet claims? Subscribe now, because next week I am releasing the opposite video, 12 hidden German towns that are among the safest places on Earth. Hit like so this reaches people who are avoiding Germany based on headlines rather than data. They deserve to see the numbers, because numbers do not lie, even when headlines do.